Ladies and gentlemen, the World Cup is the biggest, most major football event in the world. It should be about players, fans, cultures, and most importantly, football. Not doping scandals, not the abuse of human rights, not the annexation of Crimea. It's time to end this. By definition, the World Cup is held by FIFA, the international governing body of football, and is the most prestigious association football tournament in the world. A few burdens for the House today. Our side needs to prove that hosting the World Cup in Russia defeats the purpose of the World Cup and goes against its principles. It is not enough for opposition to prove that alternative host countries are worse. They have to prove why Russia can serve the fundamental purpose of holding the World Cup. Policy fallouts today. Firstly, we will shift the World Cup away from Russia and it will be postponed by 1 year to select a new host nation. Secondly, the new host nation will be the runner-up during the 2010 selection process, either Portugal or Spain. Thirdly, in the case that the runner-up countries are unwilling to do so or do not have the infrastructure to host the World Cup, we will open it to countries with sufficient infrastructure to host the event. In countries with existing professional soccer leagues like Britain, France, Korea, Japan, etc., where they have leagues like the English Premier League, La Liga, etc. Fourthly, in the highly unlikely case we cannot find such a country, we are willing to do a co-hosting of the World Cup, which will function very similarly to the way Japan and Korea did it in 2002. Substantive for us today, I as the first speaker will be talking about the principles of the World Cup and players and fans. My second speaker will be talking about the Russian political talk. On to my first substantive on the principles of the World Cup, right? We tell you that FIFA is an event which represents certain values and serves certain purposes. These purposes are, firstly, to uphold the principles of fair play, respect, and international goodwill and harmony. Secondly, to improve the branding of football as a sport on the international level. Thirdly, to enhance FIFA's standing as an association. We tell you that hosting the World Cup in Russia goes directly against these principles and purposes. But before I move on, you disagree, sir.
So, the 1980 Moscow boycott did not lead to Russia backing down, instead doubling down on Afghanistan and boycotting the 1984 Olympics. Why would your side stand for this antagonistic and exclusionary policy?
So, we think the only side that's being exclusionary here is you guys, right? Because we tell you that the point in which you host it in Russia, you basically alienate a lot of the parts of the world, right? Because at the end of the day, a lot of the players and fans will be in this scenario, which they'll be stuck in this moral dilemma, which they're forced to choose between the safety and standing in solidarity versus playing the World Cup. There is a chance of a boycotting of the World Cup. We tell you, your side also hosted in Russia, which is basically the least inclusive place in the world right now. We tell you this point does not stand. As I was saying, we tell you that Russia goes directly against the FIFA's World Cup principles and purposes. So let's talk about these principles, right? Let's talk about fair play. Russia has the most doping cases in the world. They have a state-sponsored program for it. They're infamous for it, right? In the Sochi Olympics, the Summer Olympics of 2016, and the Olympic membership being revoked because of these cases, right? It blatantly disrespects the principle of fair play. On respect, there have been rampant cases of the abuse of workers' rights for the hosting of the World Cup, rampant monkey calling, and racism among Russian support. In Chechnya last year, LGBT communities were clamped down upon and even tortured. It shows a blatant lack of respect for fundamental common humanity. For international goodwill and harmony, there's been an attempted murder of Sergei Skripal this year, a supporting of Assad's regime using chemical weapons, a suppression of Islamic religions, an annexation of Crimea and Georgia, ignoring international sovereignty. It does not fulfill the basic principle of international goodwill and harmony, and it makes it illegitimate to host this symbol of their ideal in Russia. And on the media, I'd like to remind everyone in this room that the World Cup is supposed to improve the branding of football. We tell you that when the World Cup is in Russia, the focus isn't going to be on football, it's going to be on the transgressions Russia has committed. It's because of all the horrible things that Russia has done in the past few years, I've already characterized that. But this program is happening in status quo, right? Athletes are receiving questions for their views on Russian sport poisoning and whether they will boycott the event rather than their feelings about the game, right? When CSK in Moscow was out against Arsenal, aka Russia versus England, the lead up to the game was all about Russia's transgressions. Because of this, the World Cup in Russia detracts the attention away from football and thus hurts the branding of the sport and undermines the fundamental purpose of the World Cup. And since Russia violates basic fundamental principles of the World Cup, it also destroys FIFA reputation and destroys the World Cup's credibility and power, being harmful to it as a whole, right? We tell you that having Russia host the World Cup defeats its purpose and goes against its principles before it proves a burden on this point. For my second substantive on fans and players, we tell you that athletes' career lasts about 10 years, which allows them to participate in at most 2 World Cups. The World Cup, aside from being the biggest, most prestigious football event ever, is to many players the one golden opportunity they have to be recognized internationally and be shouted out by professional clubs and teams. In fact, for most players in Asia, they will never get recognized without this spotlight. Hosting it in Russia puts these athletes at risk, but we bring to you 3 different groups. English players, minorities, and countries planning to boycott the event. So firstly, English players. There has been a recent case of pointing of Sergei Skripal and Russian affiliatism, which has led to extreme concerns about their safety in Russia. Now, stuck in this dilemma of safety versus playing in the World Cup, the British government is pressuring them to boycott the World Cup. Right? For minorities, Russia has consistently been racist towards minorities and supported Shia Muslims against Sunni Muslims, clamping down on Islamic religions. It means these players have to decide in standing in solidarity versus playing in the World Cup. Yaya Toure, midfielder of the Ivory Coast, also suggested the idea that black players should withdraw from the World Cup. Right? For countries planning to boycott, we tell you there are already 6 planning to do so. When these governments are pressuring players to miss the chance of life, things out of their control, things incredibly unfair, it hurts these athletes' lives. We also think it's unfair to place this high moral dilemma of race and religion and safety versus the opportunity of their life. We also hurt fans because now that teams and players aren't going to Russia, they're also not going to Russia. And for the fans that do go to Russia, they're fearful of even roaming the streets, and that prevents an immersion in the culture, which defeats the point of holding it in a different country every time in the first place. And the point in which you host this event in Russia, you alienate all of these people. The athletes, the fans, the governments, you go against what the FIFA World Cup should be, which is a coming together of these people of different backgrounds to play football, which much rather alienate Russia than all of these parties. Therefore, in the interest of the World Cup, we believe Russia should not host this event. We've already proven our burden, we've already shown you how healthy Russia does not fulfill the principles and purpose of the World Cup. We tell you, side opposition needs to do the same. So please, for the sake of our athletes, for the sake of the fans, for the sake of the World Cup and football, please side with side opposition.
The speaker spoke for 6 minutes and 17 seconds.
We will wait a few moments for the judges to finish making their notes. Then, when they're ready, we will continue. Okay, so judges have indicated they're ready. We thank Derek Lip from Catholic High School for opening the case for the proposition. And now to open the case for the opposition, please welcome Kenneth Poe.
When a player commits a foul, you don't show red cards to the whole team. Likewise, we on opposition would let the good people of Russia host the 2018 World Cup and reject the use of blanket and indiscriminate punishment. For Russian officials who behave badly in the field of sports and politics, we will use targeted measures like lifelong sporting bans, asset freezers, and ICC warrants. We will show in our substantives how 1. We better reform Russia, 2. We protect sporting goals, and 3. We avoid collective punishment. We thus better meet the 3 criteria for any good policy. 1. The plan must be effective in the long run. 2. It must be just in principle. And 3. It must not harm innocent third parties. Proposition needed to fulfill all of these criteria and yet fails on all 3. On to their policy, they never really had a plan on how they were going to compensate the poor fans. Notice that sure, they can refund the World Cup tickets if they were to say this in second. But for many poor fans that pour out their life savings for the chance to first-hand watch their nation play, they usually pay deposits for costly inflated airfare and hotel stays that legally and legitimately are non-refundable. Tell us how you will benefit these poor fans. The first substantive about how Russia goes against the World Cup principles. We'll show on 3 principles that we do it better still. Yes, sir.
Fans on your side will be afraid to go to Russia due to fears of discrimination as well as fan violence.
Yes, sir. We will understand. We will answer these questions later on, and I'll flag it out in my second response. So, firstly, on state-sanctioned doping, Russian footballers are remarkably clean, with no conviction of any form of doping. So, to stay clean in a nation tainted by doping scandals, we should reward them rather than punish them as convenient scapegoats. We do it better because we target the coaches, athletes, and officials who are responsible for doping. And it is worse on proposition, noting, sir, when there is no incentive for any sport to stay clean if you're going to be punished anyway. Secondly, on LGBT rights, we do it better because with the World Cup, there is a desire to present the best image. So there is pressure from the government for local police force to break up the anti-LGBT
Point of information, sir.
groups. No, thank you, sir. That in the long term will protect these LGBT groups in Russia. It's worse on proposition because at best they shelter the international community. What about the minorities? What about the LGBT groups in Russia who are targeted now as agents of the West, culpable for unfairly stripping Russia, no, thank you, sir, of the World Cup, which means that now they're going to be even more discriminated. Thirdly, on overseas conflicts, it's better on our side when we target the Russian oligarchs and military officials who are more responsible, just like we did in London earlier this year with the asset freezers. Proposition, however, gives justification for increased aggression when they show that the international community and the West took blanket and unjustified
Point of information,
against
sir.
them. No, thank you, sir. The second substantive on harming the safety. They never tell us who, so we're going to assume that it's going to be the hooligan groups in Russia. Same logic as mentioned earlier, and responding to that point of information, the Russian minorities matter too. So the World Cup would solve the entire problem of
Exactly,
hooliganism.
sir.
No, thank you, sir. If the officials want the local police force to break up the hooligan group and the mafia group, just like they did in the 2012 Euros in Poland. It is worse on proposition when hooligans target the minorities as stooges on the West. Of the West. So we win even on their grounds right from first, because at their best, our policy was more than enough to match their benefits without the egregious and unnecessary harms. On to our first argument, better reforming Russia. Vladimir Putin has cemented his rule through a narrative that the international community is unfairly undermining Russia. He blocks the foreign media, he paints independent,
Point of information, sir.
No, thank you, sir. Russian journalists as traitors and does nothing to stop their murders. He labels pro-democracy and human rights groups, including the pro-LGBT movement, as stooges of the West, leading otherwise good Russians to be mistrustful of the rest of the world. Hosting the World Cup breaks this narrative in two ways. Firstly, the host must let in international media, no thanks, sir, and stop the persecution of local journalists during the games. With scrutiny of preparations, this will lead to more exposure of possible corruption or abuse by officials, which will mean public anger is now directed to them to change. This was precisely what happened when international press converted from Brazil in the 2014 World Cup and exposed massive corruption in the Brazilian cabinet. Second reason, the host must provide visa-free entry for fans, making it easier for non-governmental organizations to enter. They are then able to support local, human rights efforts such as protection for LGBT groups, while the Kremlin cannot crack down on them with international media present. This is exactly what happened in the 1988 Seoul Summer Olympics, when pro-rap groups used the window to protest and push for reforms, weakening the military dictatorship and forging the modern South Korea. Proposition's plan does the reverse, fostering even more hate between Russia and the West. This is the best way to liberalize and reform Russia. Our second argument, proposition harms sporting goals, specifically those of women. In 2010, 3 billion people watched the men's World Cup, but for the women's, barely 3 million. This was due to years of social and institutional undermining of women's football and unbefitting for ladies. Thankfully, we have made some progress. FIFA agreed to establish a separate governing process for women. And finally, the Women's Association received what they could only dream of previously, an independent World Cup for women, held a year later, separated from the men's. Moving the World Cup to 2019 means it now directly clashes with and overshadows the FIFA Women's World Cup in 2019. Proposition will divert precious fans, funding and sponsorship, which was already lacking in the first place, away from them towards the men. Broadcasters will now prioritize the men's games and not show the women's to cut costs of broadcasting rights. Fans will choose to fly to watch only the more popular men's World Cup. This harms the women's game and undermines the goals of FIFA to spread the game to football past gender boundaries. Proposition reverts to the same painful and regressive message that when it comes to sports, girls just do not matter. We show the red card to proposition, we oppose.
The speaker spoke for 6 minutes and 9 seconds.
So, the motion the teams are debating is this House believes that the 2018 FIFA World Cup in Russia should be postponed by 1 year and moved to a different host nation. Just another quick reminder to the audience that there will be a floor debate after this main debate, so do be thinking about what your own thoughts, opinions, perspectives on this motion are. Secondary school students in the audience will have a chance to have their say at the end. Right now though, we move back. We've had the first speech from each team, so now we move on to the second speeches. To deliver the second speech for the proposition from Catholic High School, please welcome Joshua Lowe.
World Cup is about FIFA, the players, and the fans. And insofar as you can prove that side opposition makes it worse for these three groups, we take this debate. So let's have a few points of potential for our house today. Firstly, on the idea of the principles of the World Cup, and secondly, on the idea of who hosts a better World Cup. So firstly, right, they told us about the entire idea that they can incentivize Russia to be a decent country again because they let Russia hold the World Cup, right? But look, the thing is, right, Russia is a very screwed up country in status quo. And the fact is, having them hold international events doesn't change that, right? We give you the idea of the Sochi 2014 Olympics, right? Where despite the fact that we let them have the international event, they still doped, right? They still had state-sponsored doping, right? Clearly it shows that Russia doesn't care, right? They told us about like LGBT groups, how Russia will play nice because the international community spotlight is on Russia, and we tell them that okay, you can buy the goodwill of Russia for about a month, and after everyone leaves, Russia will go back to the same policies of going back to torturing homosexuals and going back to torturing LGBT groups, right? And furthermore, we tell you, right, what's more important, right, so the lead up to the event decides if people go to the World Cup, right? We tell you that the problems that exist now, are already affecting fans and players and countries, are affecting whether they want to go to the World Cup. And we've already shown you in Derek, right, how many people are already scared to go to the World Cup or are conflicted based on their value. Now we move on to the idea of inclusivity, right? They brought us this idea that, oh, we can't exclude Russia, right? But we tell you that, look, we aren't excluding Russia from the World Cup itself, right? We're still letting them play in the games if they make it, right? What we are against is having them be the host of the World Cup. And why so? Because we tell you that Russia by nature isn't inclusive, right? We tell you how they torture LGBT groups. Furthermore, the Russia World Cup by definition will be the least inclusive World Cup in the world, given how you have given how we have so many countries boycotting Russia, right? They told us how Russia will boycott other international events. But we tell you on their side, they have other countries that are planning to boycott the World Cup. They have players that are scared to go to the World Cup. They have a less inclusive World Cup. They harm the World Cup even more. We think it's more important that we protect the core values of the World Cup on our side. Now we're moving on to the practical, right? So they brought to us the idea of a mechanism and feasibility. They told us about how, we think, the fans, we won't be able to refund them and whatnot. We say, okay, fine, we'll just refund the fans, we'll refund their tickets, that's the end of it, right? And look, the fact is, right, they brought us the idea that, we're harming the Russian people because they're so innocent, right? Well, look, we think it's more important that we don't alienate the rest of the world, that we don't make everyone scared to go to the World Cup itself. We think that's much more important to defend on our side. So at the end of the day, who hosts a better World Cup? On their side, what do they have? They have FIFA's reputation destroyed because people see Russia, people see FIFA as unprincipled and corrupt. They have a World Cup whose prestige has been destroyed. They have countries who are boycotting, they have fans and players who are scared and conflicted There's people, fans and players who are scared and conflicted because they decide between their passion and their beliefs or safety, right? That isn't a World Cup that we want to see, right? And we try that hiding behind a policy doesn't change the fact that Russia has tried to attack foreign citizens, the fact that Russia discriminates against LGBT groups, right? We tell you that sure, they can buy 1 month of safety for LGBT groups, but at the end of the day, they can't win on that point because Russia won't change, right? So why won't Russia change, right? We tell you that number one, we think it's very dangerous to have a policy that we make it that's based on the entire fact of Russia's goodwill, right? They just hope that because Russia holds the World Cup, therefore Russia will change, right? But the fact is, we think it's very dangerous to have a policy relying on the goodwill of a dangerous rogue nation. The fact is, we tell you that appeasement doesn't work. We brought you the idea of Sochi, but despite the fact that we still gave them the Sochi Olympics, they still use PEDs, they still chose to go. We think that they can't really incentivize any change on their side. Finally, I'll be moving on to the idea of the female World Cup already, because that it's somehow harmful to women and whatnot. We tell you, look, we'll just shift it, we'll just make it the same day as the World Cup. There are many things we can do to not exclude women. We think that this is part of the debate. It's not something that we should be discussing about. Now we move on to my substantive of why Russia should not be allowed to use the World Cup as a political tool. Recognize that hosting large international sporting events give governments and countries a lot of power. With the exception of the world focused on the host nation for nearly a month, countries will be able to control what people see on their screens, crafting an extremely sanitized view of their nation, which viewers will perceive as what their country is really like. At the same time, this grants the host nation a lot of power to rouse nationalistic sentiments and national pride amongst its people. We think it's particularly problematic when this avenue falls into the hands of rogue regimes, it can lead to dire consequences. We give you 2 examples. Number 1, during the 1978 World Cup, host nation Argentina under junta rule promised peace and harmony on TV and used the World Cup to cover up political oppression and mass disappearances. Secondly, during the 1936 Olympics, Hitler used the Olympics to present the world a sanitized view of Nazi Germany that emphasized iron might and German strength, which boosted Nazi prestige all around the world. Recognize that rogue regimes are bound to use these events as propaganda tools to boost their prestige and cover up their crimes, extending their regime. We tell that we cannot allow a rogue regime to use the international sporting events like the World Cup to boast its standing internationally and internally ever again. We think that Russia is bound to use the World Cup as a means to push their agenda. We think it's important that the international community takes a stand against it, right? Because what they brought to us on the outside, right? It's just like trash with them, right? They said that, oh, Russia really removed the host nation, this will increase political tension, and it will make things worse, they won't change, right? They tell you, right, in status, why won't this happen on the outside? I'm telling you, in status quo, the Russian regime under Putin sustains legitimacy on the image of a strong, stable, and powerful Russia. They do this as Russian status quo suffer from many severe problems, like a weak internal economy and internal strife among segments of society. Sustaining the myth of Russia being mighty and powerful allows it to hold people together so they can remain in power. That's why you see Vladimir Putin constantly presenting himself as a godlike individual. Yeah, so we think that Russia wants to move the World Cup to gain an avenue to sweep all their bombs under the rug and glorify their nation so they can distract the people, so as garner strong support among the Russian people and feeding into the myth of a mighty Russia through the hosting of such a major sporting event, allowing them to further extend the longevity of their regime. This is why I think it's more beneficial to Russia to host the World Cup, because it complements the image and myth of strong Russia and strong Russian government. Contrast it to the outside where they have the shame of being removed as a host nation, which goes against the entire strong image they've been trying to sustain and is harder to capitalize on. We tell you that FIFA cannot allow another Argentina to happen again, cannot allow rogue regimes to continue to borrow and misuse the prestige of the World Cup as it greatly damages the prestige and integrity of the event. Russia needs to FIFA needs to take a stand against Russia and make clear that the World Cup exists to promote football and not to promote the goals of a rogue regime. We don't expect to change Russia, but at least prevent them from using the World Cup as possible tool. Rather on the outside, we think Russia is going to use it as possible tool. It's going to be more harmful to the international community. It's going to alienate a lot of people. Thus, I'm proud to propose.
The speaker spoke for 6 minutes and 15 seconds.
We thank Joshua Lowe from Catholic High School for his speech. Now to continue the case for the opposition from Raffles Institution, please welcome Matthew Tan. Are we ready, Aaron?
Let us just begin by clarifying one thing. The burden of proposition in today's debate isn't just to prove the benefits of FIFA and the reputation of the World Cup. Their burden is to prove that they stand for benefiting the image of the World Cup and FIFA while at the same time not harming any external actors unmorally or unprinciply. So they've really failed on those grounds because none of the rebuttals in their second speech really attacked our substantive on how they are implementing collective punishment that harms so many other innocent actors out there. Two contentions in today's debate. One, harming external actors. Two, benefiting the World Cup and FIFA. So on to the first contention on harming external actors. And here's where I'll begin. Because in their first argument, they went on a long ramble about all the different harms that come from hosting in Russia, Crimea, Syria, poisoning of double agents in UK, for example. But note how it's really contradictory. Because right from the start in first speaker, he literally said in his opening, this debate isn't about all those issues. So it's really a contradiction in their first speaker. But fine, I'll deal with it anyway. No, thank you. Do you want to talk about fans who are subjected to racial slurs? Do you want to talk about minority persecution in Russia? Let us help proposition break free from the anti-Russian narrative that the Westerners have tricked them into. Three structural reasons why proposition is unable to protect all the measures. No, thank you. One, lack of specificity in plot mechanism. Because proposition fails to recognize that only a small minority of the Russian population is fascist and right-wing. Their blanket approach allows for these specific perpetrators to hide behind everyone else conveniently and escape punishment. You know what's more likely to happen on proposition? We're going to have even more of such ultra-nationalist, right-wing extreme fans going over to the new host nation to continue the antagonism. Because now they're angry that proposition had targeted Russia and attacked them by removing the World Cup. What did we tell you we will do? With all the added media attention, when Russia is when Kremlin specifically is concerned about giving a reputation in hosting the World Cup. No, thank you. They are going to devote even more resources to the police to allow even more crackdown on minority persecution. They're going to issue specific executive orders for laws and authorities to crack down on all these things happening. If anything, it's on our side where we better the protection of all these prevention of all these racist slurs and minority persecution. But note how the scariest thing of all on proposition is the ordinary Russians. The ultra-nationalists and extremists who are angered. It's the ordinary Russians, because they think that removing the World Cup away from Russia specifically targets and harms all the innocent Russians who are just trying to make a living and getting by out of hosting the World Cup. So now it's not just the ultra-nationalists, they're incentivizing the entire Russian population to become extreme. No thank you, sir. But note how they consider essentially in their second speaker that we only force Russia to shut down for 1 month. If anything, 1 month is already better than none on proposition. But 2 reasons why this will continue in the long term. 1, because we told you in our mechanism specifically, when you have continued media attention, you disallow Russia to revert the information. No, thank you. We saw in Brazil 2014 World Cup, for example, how even after World Cup had ended, continued media attention was placed on Petrobras, oil scandals, and even the corruption of their president. Second reason, because when you give so many concessions, no thank you, it's hard to take all of them back. Note how in Beijing 2008, for example, the Chinese people pressured the Chinese government to give so many concessions that at the end of the day, it was hard for them to revoke all of it after. So anyway, at the end of the day, at least we still have some concessions and benefits standing on our side. Note how proposition wanted to shy away from the entire issue of the Women's World Cup because they had no response. They told us, oh no, it's all right, we will hold it on the same day, there will be no detriment. Or if anything, we just postpone it further. Note how proposition is already mansplaining their way out of this argument. Because literally they're telling us that, oh no, they know better and they know what's good for women. If anything, we tell you that the women including themselves have already spoken out against this particular mechanism. Because they think that any attack on their right to have their World Cup in 2019 is a violation of their basic rights. No thank you. Moving on to the second area, on benefiting World Cup and FIFA. So we get it, proposition wants to shy away from solving all the other problems out there. If there's such a lack of confidence in their case, we're fine. But they have to prove to us how even on those grounds, they're winning. Because we told you that at the end of the day, if there's even more politicization, hold on a moment, sir, when you remove the World Cup away from Russia. Because now you're telling everyone that the FIFA is not strong enough to hold Russia down and to solve all these problems. Tell me what I'm wrong, sir.
How is it when you contradict all of the purposes and principles of the FIFA World Cup?
Thank you, sir.
FIFA World Cup should still be in place.
We're not contradicting the principles of World Cup. We're just telling you that at the same time as protecting FIFA and the World Cup, you cannot harm any other external actors, which you have already did. Moving on to our last argument on why their side is principally contradictory. They are advocating for abhorrent collective punishment. No, thank you. Premise: a just punishment targets the specific individuals responsible for crimes while minimizing the impact of said punishment on innocent third parties. This affirms legal principles of mens rea and actus reus. Third parties had no intent nor role in the crime, so they cannot hide behind protecting the image of FIFA in the World Cup if at the same time they are contributing moral and legal principles that the world has literally universally agreed on. That is why the international law, for example, declares collective punishment to be a war crime. Similarly, most Russians are not racist xenophobes wearing Adidas, drinking vodka, and randomly beating up people. Most are ordinary citizens struggling to make ends meet to survive in one of the harshest political, economic, and literal climates in the world. These Russians looked forward to the World Cup because they wanted the influx of fans and tourists to prop them up and keep them alive. They took loans to start hotel, transport, and food businesses, and now all that money is going down the drain because they removed the World Cup. The comparative is this. On our side, we keep all these measures away. We recognize that the only way to change Russia is from the ground up, and we need to empower the middle class to allow them to become stronger so that they're able to fight against the Kremlin. Because we are proud to show proposition the red card we oppose.
The speaker spoke for 6 minutes and 15 seconds.
Okay, so we've had 2 speeches now from each team. We'll be moving on to the third speeches in just a moment. The teams are debating the motion. This House believes that the 2018 FIFA World Cup in Russia should be postponed by 1 year and moved to a different host nation. Now, to deliver the third speech for the proposition from Catholic High School, please welcome Leslie Yip.
This debate is not about changing Russia. This debate is about the fans, the players, and the countries that are participating in the World Cup. Side opposition has only tried to talk about the short-term harms and how there are additional harms to taking out of the World Cup. And they haven't actually proven why it's so justified to hold it in Russia. We've already established since Derek that they need to prove why Russia is so justified in hosting this World Cup, and that why and it's not enough for them to say that the alternatives are simply worse. So I'm going to show to you why our side takes this debate in three main clashes. Firstly, on the principles of the World Cup. Secondly, on which side better fulfills the purpose of the World Cup, and thirdly, on Russia. So on to the first point. In Derek, we've already established three main objectives of the World Cup. Firstly, fair play. Secondly, respect. And thirdly, international goodwill. We told you we've already fulfilled this burden. We've proven down the bench why Russia transgresses all of these principles, right? We tell that this argument is non-consequentialist, and regardless of any practical harms they try to bring up on their side, this still stands. It's not fair for Russia to hold the World Cup, given all these contradictions to what it principally stands for. What they're trying to with Russia contradicting all these principles on their side, there's literally no point to holding the World Cup given that it doesn't actually fulfill the purpose of the World Cup. We thought that the principle is important for the prestige of the World Cup and FIFA as well, because FIFA as an organization needs to take a firm stance against discrimination against LGBT and acts of aggression in Crimea or Ukraine. We thought that by taking a clear stance against these, it sends a strong message that FIFA and the World Cup are against all these actions. Their side is perfectly happy with relying on Russian goodwill. We thought that this isn't something we should stand for because Russia has proven that it doesn't care about international spotlight. It doesn't care. Based on historical precedents, it has shown that it doesn't care when the international spotlight has been placed on them. We bring to the example of the Sochi Games, right? They didn't care that the international spotlight was placed on them, and they still had state-sponsored doping. So onto the whole idea of respect and equality, right? So they came up to us in first with this real argument on how by holding the men's games in 2019, it will somehow harm the female games. We thought that firstly, that's not exactly a justification to why we can't hold it in Russia. Secondly, we thought that the Olympics have both genders at the same time. We don't really see any cases of men overshadowing the females, right? We thought that this debate is about the World Cup, right? And it's not about how men are overshadowing females in this case, right? Because we thought that by moving the games. 2019, it's not actually attacking their right to having a World Cup, right? They haven't actually told us why holding it the same year necessarily infringes on the rights of the female games, right? And on to the whole point of third-party harm, right? We're perfectly okay with punishing Russians because, firstly, we thought that they're not completely innocent because they're guilty of supporting discrimination, they're guilty of monkey chanting, and they're guilty of all the of actively participating in this fan violence, right? We're perfectly okay with punishing and using them, and this is the trade-off we're willing to accept on our side, because we thought that Russia is already okay with using its own people in order to achieve political goals using World Cup. We simply don't think that this should stand. So in fact, their side is the one that harms more third parties, right? Because innocent fans from other countries cannot actually go to the event, right? We've already told you since first speaker about how Russia scares fans away. Russia puts players in moral dilemmas. On to the next part. Under the principle, we have already told you that the World Cup needs to promote the branding of football, and we thought that Russia is inherently harmful to this. We thought that Russia alienates many parties. We told you they alienate fans, they alienate players, and they alienate countries. 28,000 tickets were bought have only were bought from the UK, as contrasted to the 94,000 brought in the run-up to the Brazil World Cup. We tell that with countries like Australia, Poland, and Iceland, and Denmark planning boycotts, right? We tell that holding it in Russia is detrimental to the branding of football. The trade-off on our side is losing one Russia, and we're perfectly okay because we allow all other parties to participate in the World Cup. We rather make the World Cup accessible to everyone, even at the cost of innocent Russians, as they claim on their side. The safety concerns from monkey chanting, from discrimination, we simply do not want to put the stakeholders in a position to make decisions like this. Russia is unlikely to uphold discipline on their side, because even in the best case scenario, even under their best case scenario, no thank you sir. Even under their best case scenario, people still perceive the danger. Even if somehow on their side, all these regulations work on the day itself, it doesn't matter because the damage has already been done, given that people will not buy the tickets in a run-up to the event. And it's going to point out that their side doesn't actually have any real guarantees that Russia is actually going to change in this way, right? Because people still perceive Russia as dangerous, and because fans have no assurance, they wouldn't want to participate in the World Cup. Russia is not good for football's branding, and so this is why we don't think that they can fulfill the purpose of the World Cup. Now on to the last point of Claire, on changing Russia. Firstly, we tell you that this debate is not about changing Russia, it's about the World Cup, and we also tell you that all the policies that on their side are like targeted policies against people who contrary to principles of the World Cup are not mutually exclusive, right? Joshua has already told you about why we need to take a firm stance against Russia. Joshua has already told you that Russia doesn't care about international spotlight. We need to deny Putin's political tool, because when they have this World Cup, they're more likely to generate nationalistic sentiments. Why is this the case? Because Russia has consistently gotten away with transgressions, with crimes against humanity, with bombing in Syria, right? We tell that this isn't something we should let Russia get away with. We need to take a firm stance and let them get off lighter, right? Because Russia they still has this political tool to use as a means to stir nationalism. We tell that politicization is even worse on their side, because the lead up to the games will all just be about the transgressions of Russia. So for all these reasons, please go to the side that helps that fulfills the purpose of the World Cup. Please go to the side proposition.
The speaker spoke for 6 minutes and 19 seconds.
We thank Leslie Yip from Catholic High School for their speech. Now to continue the case for the opposition, please welcome their third speaker, Aran Anantam.
I'm going to answer 3 questions in this case. 1, is proposition's policy effective? 2, is it principally justified? And 3, does it harm innocent bystanders? Proposition lost the debate on all 3 categories, which were criteria for a good policy, as we told you in first. No response from proposition. Let us first engage on their best grounds and the main pillar of their case. Is proposition's policy effective? They claimed that fans would fear for their safety and there is widespread discrimination in Russia. We told you right from first that with the World Cup, Russia is incentivized to clean up, to create a good image of themselves, and therefore they will crack down on these abuses. This is exactly what proposition themselves conceded to in their third substantive. We completely agree that Russia is in the games for the propaganda value. They want to portray a good image of themselves for their propaganda. We think this is a good thing. The necessity to maintain a good image is exactly the same reason why Russia will be most incentivized to ensure the safety of both the players and the fans to prevent their games from getting a bad rap. That is exactly what counters proposition. This is also exactly what happened in England in 1996 and in Ukraine and Poland in 2012 after their respective Euros. Hosting the games solves these problems in the host country. Because with the world's media watching, the Russian police can no longer ignore homosexuals being beaten up in the street when the order comes right from the top to maintain your country's image. It is far worse on proposition, because at best, nothing gets changed and Russian footballers and fans continue to suffer in silence. This is why change in Russia is relevant to the World Cup, because without change on their side, people within Russia would continue suffering. This is something that they have considered too. On their side, at best, nothing gets changed and Russians continue to suffer. But at worst, Russians blame black fans homosexual fans and footballers for this $10 billion investment loss. That is when oppression is far worse. Proposition cannot claim that changing Russia is not relevant because that is the main aim of the debate. That is how to solve the problem they brought up. They also made a clear contradiction in this whole boycott issue, because while they say that countries will boycott, they also say that players will be harmed. If the countries don't go, then how exactly can the players be harmed? The reality is, countries aren't actually planning to boycott. They trust that Russia has enough incentive to portray a good image of themselves. That is why they're not going to boycott. Proposition were clearly ineffective. How were we better? We told you about opening up a window for engagement. We told you how this was long-term change because the international community sends a message to the Russian people that they appreciate the difference between the Kremlin and the ordinary Russians, something that Proposition clearly didn't do. This shows that they don't hold the innocent Russians accountable for the sins of the Kremlin. Our approach to keep the World Cup in Russia cements this, as my second speaker told you. Proposition will only miss out on its benefits. They actually incentivize backlash from the Russian government. On their side, they blame pro-democracy and human rights movements as stooges of the West, and it further cements their anti-West propaganda, and now they actually have a good reason to do it. Last point on the Sochi Games. Actually, the Sochi Games were a huge success for us. They drew attention to all the problems that Proposition wanted to talk about. How do you think we even knew about this in the first place? Why is the World Cup far better? Sochi was mainly an isolated event and was on the scale of the entire country, like the World Cup, which we are clearly far more effective at changing Russia. Let's now move on to a far more important part of the debate. We have to recognize that we're implementing any law or policy, the principal justification always takes place over effectiveness. It will be very effective if we had the death penalty for petty theft, but we don't, because we recognize that principles like proportionality are far more important. Proposition claim that we violate principles of FIFA. First, on state-sanctioned doping. My second speaker told you how football is actually the cleanest sport. By extending on it, there's an harm because when they claim even the clean sport is dirty, now there is no incentive for them to keep clean anymore. But even if there was a problem in football doping, we solve it because we have stricter punishments on the guilty. Proposition still have no excuse for state punishment. For example, Proposition is targeting the wrong individuals. We solve it better by going after the top officials and oligarchs with asset freezing and ICC warrants. This is how we solve the problem. But secondly, Proposition makes it far worse because whether you see Russian aggression in backlash to this policy, in backlash to harming their economy. Last point on migrant worker abuse. We told you, first of all, it is unfair to blame the whole of Russia for this because it's mostly a corporate issue. But secondly, migrant worker abuse has always been around in Russia. The only reason we know about them now is because of the World Cup. This is actually a good thing on our side. Lastly, on collective punishment. It's like they actually consider in third speaker that the ordinary Russians were innocent and they didn't punish them anyway. They lack any principle justification for their policy. This is parallel to a war crime. Last point of contention on how they harm innocent bystanders. This is equally important to the debate. Yes, sir.
You don't think your burden is to prove that there's actually further harm, right? Your burden is to prove that Russia is justified and does not fulfill the principles of the World Cup that you hosted in Russia.
So, I've just told you how Russia, the whole of Russia, cannot be to blame for migrant worker abuse, racism, etc. How we actually target those who are responsible. We have specific punishments. That is why we ensure that the whole Russia is justified to host the World Cup. Last argument on women in football. Proposition claims that we better if hosted together. Let's ignore what my second speaker told you about how FIFA would have not had the incentive to sell broadcasting rights together. But all the women's federations protested when it was suggested that they hold the World Cup together. Even if we accept the misogynistic notion that Cat High knows what is good for women more than they do, at the very least, we violate their choice. This is unacceptable. Proposition lose on all three grounds of the debate because they are not effective at changing Russia, they have no principal justification for taking the World Cup away, and they harm innocent actors. On our side, we recognize that the best reform and change comes from within Russia, and we sought long-term, tangible benefits instead. That is why we take the debate. For the sake of Russia and the world, I am proud to show a red card to psychological policy. I am so proud to oppose.
Now to move on to the Dean's 3-minute concluding reply speeches. There are no points of information during reply speeches. The timekeeper will give one signal after 2 minutes, just to let the speaker know that they have 1 minute left, and then a double signal after 3 minutes. Order is reversed here as well. Opposition goes first, then proposition. So, to deliver the opposition's reply speech, From Raffles Institution, please welcome Matthew Tan.
Two reasons why opposition took today's debate. One, opposition was more effective than we. At the end of the debate, we saw two different conceptions of what effectiveness really was. On proposition, effectiveness meant improving FIFA's image and the World Cup as a whole. On opposition, we saw effectiveness as solving humanity's problems and literally being decent in general. So let's just start with this. We told you from the start our mechanism protected, one, the disenfranchised people in Russia. Two, we protected women because we ensured that their Women's World Cup in 2019 got the same coverage and it allowed the women's soccer idols to inspire more feminist movements in the future. Three, we talked about protecting fans because now we have Russia cracking down on their hooligans and those who want to marty-chan, whether in Russia or those travelling abroad to the new host country to do so continuously. Four, we told you how we protect innocent Russians down the line by opening up Russia, expanding the economy, and allowing them to become more progressive and liberal. So the only response proposition had at the end of the debate was misrepresenting our case. Because we heard in second and third that they accused us of never providing them any concrete mechanism as to how we achieve this change. Literally in my first speaker, we give you multiple mechanisms. We told you how media coverage, for example, incentivizes Russia to clean up their act. Because the fact that Russia even bid for the World Cup in the first place was for the international good reputation in the international sphere. It was why we already see Russia diverting more funds, allowing FIFA to come in to crack down and investigate on monkey chanting, for example. Which is why we took this area on effectiveness. If anything, proposition couldn't prove to us how they bettered the lives of all these other people. What was the effectiveness they want to talk about? They were a very selfish team in today's debate, only caring about the profit incentives of FIFA and about bettering the image of World Cup. We told you that sure, as an organization, that is a legitimate concern on proposition, but at the same time, you cannot compromise on the principal legitimacy as well as avoiding any harm on innocent third parties. If anything, we even give you a practical extension of this. We told you, if FIFA is now responsible for infringing on women's rights, if FIFA is now responsible for causing even more monkey chanting, then on their practical grounds alone, that harms FIFA's image even more than hosting it in Russia. Because now they are antagonizing innocent people in society. So if they really want to better the image of the World Cup and the FIFA, it is our policy that does so and betters FIFA organization as a whole. The second reason why we took this debate, because we had much more principled justification down the line. We told you in my argument and even in Canada, why collective punishment is basically just morally and legally wrong. And not once did we hear a response from proposition. Their only response to this was that, oh, FIFA doesn't have to care about all these because, FIFA only cares about the profits that they rake in from all this viewership. We told you down the line that even on those grounds, FIFA had to remain principally legitimate in order to remain clean and get the profits that they want. Because it was on our side where we had an added burden that we fulfilled by protecting innocence, and we even won on proposition's yardstick of bettering FIFA and the World Cup as a whole. I'm so proud to show the red card to proposition.
The speaker spoke for 3 minutes and 20 seconds.
And that brings us to the final speech of this grand final, or at least the final stage speech. We still have the floor debate after that. But for the final speech on stage, please welcome, to conclude the proposition's case, from Catholic High School, Joshua Lowe.
They came up in second and told us that we have bought into some pro-Western narrative that we just simply confused. I think it's very clear where they stand in this case. When we have a rogue nation who violates the very woke values that the World Cup stands by, we think it's time to show them the red card. So, look, so here's the two clashes that the debate revolve around today, right? Firstly, on the principles of FIFA and why they need to stand on it, and secondly, on the practical benefits.
who hosts a better World Cup. Let's move on to the principles of the World Cup. We've told you, right, that